right. Good afternoon, viewers and listeners. Today we are joined by Dr. Marcus Dlamini. Dr. Marcus Dlamini is a senior executive and within Randwater, but also what I really admire around him, he's got double PhD, which is something that is rare. And it's good to have you, Dr. Dlamini.
Thank you. Thank you for a nice introduction, Detaka. I genuinely appreciate. Thank you very much.
Hey, thank you. Thank you. Let's start with the first question. And I think today we're going to learn a lot from you. Right? So, Doc, just take us through to the beginning. When first, you went east, when did you first go into civil engineering and infrastructure development?
Oh, Deka, let me first say what an insightful question. For me, it was in twofold. The first one, I grew up in Umlazi, which is the township in the Durban, KwaZulu-Natal. So when I grew up, I had a grandfather who was operating a business in the Durban Central. And when we woke up in the mornings, we will go to operate at his business. So I used to see different worlds, Umlazi, and I used to compare it to Mhlanga and Westville. And then looking at Westville and Mhlanga and looking at Umlazi, it was two infrastructures. It was two worlds. I was looking at different environments, how stop signs were designed in Mhlanga, how stop signs were designed in Umlazi, the infrastructure, the type of houses, how small the houses and how big the houses, shops, the stalls, the shopping centers, the intersections, the railway lines, the whole of infrastructure. And I said, wow, I wish to stay there. But before I can stay there, I need to understand what it took for them to understand that this place deserves such an infrastructure. So it was something that was very provoking to me to say, look, I want to be involved, wanting to develop my own community to be on the same level as people who stays at Mhlanga or in Westville. And I wanted to make sure that I also make sure that the infrastructure that we have, because we used to have block storm motors, we used to have roads that had a lot of potholes. Some of them, they were gravel, they were not even yet tarred in my days. So I said, I also want to be involved and make sure that when they tar this road, I'm involved. When they tar this road, I'm the one that designs it. So it was just a desire to see the human value getting increased. Thank you.
Right. So I see here you really want to make a difference, but I see that your journey, into civil engineering and infrastructure, it led you into multi-billion rand infrastructure programs, like your water programs within Rand Water. And I believe, how did that shape your career as you grow through as an civil engineer?
Look, one has to acknowledge the Lord himself, the Almighty, that I was fortunate. I was placed in major infrastructure programs early at my career. And it was not because of me, but it was because of the universe and being lucky because of God. So the exposure of projects such as Gautrain, Kusile Power Station, obviously the multi-billion project in Rand Water, gave me a proximity to the leadership at scale. So how did it shape me? What shaped me the most was observing leadership working under pressure, and how decisions were made, how they accounted, how they carried themselves, and how they navigated the complexities. Let me give an example. We were busy with the Gautrain. And while we're busy with the Gautrain, people said, no, there's a World Cup 2010. And everybody's coming to South Africa. And we wanted to use the railway. And we wanted to make sure that this project was going to be implemented on time. We were told, stop. Gauteng province came, they intervened. Guys, work overtime. We are now no more working 9 hours, but we're working 18 hours. Some will even have to swap. Resources were increased. Decisions were made. In less than 6 months, we made it. The project became on board. We made it on time. people were excited to have the Gautrain, using the Gautrain as the one of the infrastructure rails for the World Cup. So it really, really, really shaped me. So it taught me that the leadership about responsibility, clarity, and discipline at the highest stakes environment will lead to success.
Yes, yes, yeah, because these big projects, they're big decisions that are there, that are made, and it's got a big impact in terms of, because it's a multi-billion project at the end. But I just want to hear from you now. You are now operating at governance level, and many professions, they tend to confuse between the two, being an executive, operational, and being at board level. And there is a shift that is there. What is the biggest shift in mindset that an executive manager has to, encounter so that they can operate at board level?
Look, when you still operating on an executive level, you're more an executor. You're more productive driven. But now, all of a sudden, I'm appointed at UJ. I'm appointed at multiple, companies as a board member. Then boom, I had to now make sure that the extra it accounts, and how do I make an extra account? So it was all about me understanding the organizational vision, the strategy,
Yes.
the governance compliance, and the outcomes. So that was the drastic shift to say, I'm used of pushing production. I'm used to making sure so-and-so accounts, we need to do this. All of a sudden, I'm saying ESCO. This is what is happening. So it became less about execution, but it was more about alignment, accountability, and sustainability. So that's how it all happened.
Yes, because now it's about strategy, risk, accountability, at that level. I think it's quite a big shift. I heard you speak about judgment within as a director. They say that you need to have independent judgment. What does this, what does a constructive board, challenge look like when you talk about an independent judgment? Because at executive level, it's different. You just want to produce, but at governance level, we need independent judgment. Can you give more just to illustrate what does independent judgment look like?
At board meetings, we all sit and we all listen to each and every question, each and every point, each and every contribution. But what is the most important is that intuitionally, the quality of mind that you have, that is actually helping and assisting your company to achieve the strategic vision and making sure that the risk is also, we've complied with the risk, the objective of making sure the company is within all governance spaces is adhered. So we then look at the most important thing is continuously having a quality of mind that is objectively making sure that you do not deviate from the constructive of governance.
Yes, yes. Thank you, Doctor. I'm going to come back to governance just now, but I just want to, just look at your qualifications. You've got a dual doctorate qualifications, and you're also involved in peer review as well. That's what I saw in terms of your profile. Now, how does your qualification, contribute in terms of your governance and board level work that you are doing?
Yo, Deka, you're cooking me. But I think it will help to be detailed in my explanation. As somebody who has a PhD or a PhD holder, the most dominant strength that you carry is references, authentic knowledge, and then authentic information. You do not waffle, but you speak from true references. Now let's take a shift. You are placed in the board space. You're different because you are not talking from emotions. You are not talking from hearsays. You're not talking from views of people. You are saying, this is what has been tabled, this is what has been presented. Can I be authentically search whether this is accurate, is this concise, is it appropriate or not? So the academic side of things, that way it integrates with board, that you ensure that even when you engage, you do so in a form of point references, you validate the knowledge. But what it also does, it also helps the board because now it eliminates speculations. There was a lot of speculations in board meetings, but it
Yeah,
also allows
yes.
conciseness, structured contribution that is grounded by evidence and framework. So this does balance the research and the experience strength the governing discussions. So that's how I can explain, or that's how I can answer you, is that the big contributing factor is that it's concise references that are able to be supported with facts.
Yes, thank you. You put it so nicely. As a board member, our decisions are not made up by social media, or what the public say, but what is the evidence there and what is the best interest of the organization. Thanks for that. I know you wrote a piece, or you speak on AI at a recent conference. I know about it. I believe it's one of your passions. Can you just, can you just say, in terms of the future, how can boards be prepared in terms of technology? How can boards be better prepared? Because technology brings disruption. How can boards be prepared for that?
Look, as I've said, I don't want to speak on anything on speculations. Research made, statistics presented. It is prospectively known that most of boards comprises of people at an older age, maybe from 40 upward.
Yes,
There are no youngsters. So the
yes.
reality is that younger professionals are already operating at a speed technology. So and I'm not against old guys, and I'm not saying they cannot work, but it is a perceived knowledge that one day is slow. They're very slow in adapting to technological advancements. So now what is happening? The challenge is that many boards are still composed of those leaders who are shaped from the earlier industrial revolutions. When I say earlier, we look at first industrial revolutions and maybe getting to third industrial revolutions. But now we're already
Yeah.
sitting at fifth industrial revolution. So the opportunity lies in making sure that how do we bridge that gap to make sure that these boards operate effectively? We need to bring in younger and technologically awareness perspective, while we
Yes.
are maintaining these older guys who have the institutional knowledge, who've got experience, who've been functioning forever. So for me, the balance is that if the balance is not achieved, then the pace of change will always be affected. So yeah, that's how I can bring it on board.
Yes, because I think a few weeks ago, I read an article which one was saying that at board level, we make decisions for the future. Okay, your past achievements and so forth, they are good. It's okay. But what we want, decisions for the future, it's strategic view. So I agree with you that technology is affecting us. It's going to affect us. So yes, we need that competence also in the board as well. Right. Can you hear me? All right. There was a bit of a glitch there. Yeah, but I think we are back now.
We're back on board. Yes, I saw it. So you can rephrase the question for me, because when we were speaking, I think we just experienced what we were talking about in the previous pod, which is technology, and I don't know whether it was a coincidence or something was trying to tell us that how important it is to be on par with your technology. But let me afford you an opportunity again to rephrase the question as we had experienced the technical glitch.
Yes. I was just commenting that a recent piece that I read was saying that when we make decisions at the board, it's about the future, So having older people with experience, it's good. But what is important, the decisions that we make are for the future. So when we look at technology, we are looking at what are the future disruptions that are coming. So this is the decision that we make. So that needs people who are competent in terms of technology, who can sort of see the future in advance and prepare the organization for that. Right. Let me just turn just a leaf I know that you attended one of our director mentorship program a few years ago. I've got two questions around that. When you signed up to attend that program, what were the gaps that you were trying to fill? What way was it that you were looking for? And the second question is, how did it impacted you in terms of your board career?
Okay, a very strong question. First, I want to say I'm a very inquisitive person. I strive for continuous improvement, but also strive for excellence. I'm passionate in making sure that I am a 360-degree competent leader. So what happened is that I've always had a strong desire to outgrow my limitations. I was always operating at executive level operationally, and that was, and I always, while I always wanted to outgrow my limitation, I realized that I needed to think both in a helicopter and in a submarine thinking simultaneously. So what does it mean? That I must able to see the bigger picture while understanding the deep operational realities. So that was actually the biggest skill that was short or that was needed in me. So what did the program do? The program it elevated my ability to approach governance and execution simultaneously. I was able to contribute in an executive problem while implementing and applying the governance. I was able to help and assist the organization to address the governance issues while we're executing. And I made sure that that pace is not disturbed because I was more competent. So I would say salute to the program for doing that. So, and then the second question, I don't know whether I've heard it clearly. You said, how did it
impacted your board career?
Look, before we had an engagement, me and you, but you spoke about one of our counterpart, which is Elamari. I will introduce her to my response. Firstly, it refined my language, how I speak. It was no more about this, that. I was able to simultaneously integrate the executive language and the board language. My approach to board application, and it also expanded my professional network like Elamari and many other more. So most importantly, it strengthened my understanding of integrity, regulation within the board context. So it repositioned me into the governance space. How did it reposition into the governance space? You introduced me to Elamari. I completed my PhD. Elamari decided to post me in favor of celebration. Elamari has a lot of network in the board space. Next thing I see 20, 30,000 views on my post. The next thing I see people inviting me. The next thing I see people calling me for interviews. I've been putting applications, but nobody was responding. I've been doing all other, search to make sure that I actually show myself. It didn't happen. But just me connecting to Elamari and her posting me, that's where it all went right. So yeah, it's that what I can explain and I can put in place. I hope that is clear for you. Again, salute to you for introducing me to Elamari. Thank you very much. Yes.
All right. Thanks, Doc. Just to comment again on that, I've heard people say, no, I'm going to figure it out on my own. I don't need anybody. Whether it's been mentorship, whether it's formal or informal, I'm going to, define my own board career without anybody. What can you comment? What can you say to those guys who think like that compared to, engaging with others, connecting, mentorship, as part of shaping your board career?
Okay. I want to answer it in the most simplified way, but broader in terms of making people understand. I want to first define formal and informal. Anything informal has an intention to achieve what it wants to achieve. But how can you achieve something when you don't have a vision? How do you achieve something when you don't have direction? How do you achieve something when you do not have a goal? How do you achieve something when you do not have an estimated time to achieve what you want to achieve? You are directional. Something that might take 20 years, something that you can do in 2 years, you can actually achieve it in 40, 50 years because it's informal, doesn't have direction. But when it's good, when it's formal, and this is more from an advice point, it is structured. It has a sense of direction. It is planned. It has an intention to accelerate your vision 10 times than you know, or 40 times than you know. So the informal advice may provide knowledge, but it does not lead to the end goal. Structured mentorship has direction, it's defined your path, it has a clear vision of outcome, and it ensures that the progress towards the specific direction, it's achieved. So the reason why I'm here and I'm speaking to you, because me and you, we sat down, we set up a goal, we set up a plan, and that plan was implemented, it was executed. And we also had desired outputs on it, and we acted on it. That's why me and you, we're sitting here. That's why I sit on other multiple boards, because we had a plan. So that's how I can advise the next person to compare informal and formal. Thanks, Taka.
Oh, you really answered it in way beyond what I was thinking. You know, when someone has got a PhD, you know, you think, you see things, the dots, and you connect them, align them, and then you present them. Yeah, thank you. I think you've done quite well to that one. But I just gave a follow-up question. I know you are also mentoring, and that I know. Can you talk about your mentoring? Who are you mentoring, and where are you doing the mentoring?
This is it's a bit tough, but I have to answer it because once you become a qualified PhD holder and somebody that is exposed to the boards, you become somebody who is needed and who's wanted in the space. You receive multiple inboxes and messages from different, from different people, different scholars, different professionals. So currently, I can say I've managed to sieve from close to 1,000 emails or 1,000 messages, and I've cut down to about 10 of my mentors that I have in place. So how do my mentors tailored, and who are those mentors? One, I have about 4 mentors that are tailored for board positions, whom I'm mentoring in terms of boards and how they should carry themselves, how to prepare, which courses to do, the importance of understanding plenty and stuff. I've got 4 of those mentors. And how are we carrying on the mentorship program? I'm following more or less the similar way that you have transferred to me, which is the vision, the strategy, and obviously also the formal way of mentoring them. So yeah, that's what I can. That's how I can answer you. I've also got other six mentees, which are outside, obviously the board space, but there's an inclusive program that makes them become included in the board space, but also looking at engineering, infrastructure, and many other spaces. So yes, I am there, and I'm implementing what you've taught me, and I see improvement. And one of the guys just received, I think, a board position in one of the universities.
That's great. Yeah, it's good when knowledge is shared. You know, if you keep it yourself, it won't have much impact. But when you share it out there, it's going to multiply and the impact grow. I believe this is how we can change this continent. When we share the information, mentor each other, and build the future leader. Because the future that we want is actually in our hands. You know, we can actually create that. Thanks, Doc, for that impact that you're doing. I just want to go a little bit into ethics, ethical leadership. Now, within the capital-intensive public sector environment, you know, ethical leadership is constantly tested. I know myself, I do consultant work within the public sector. You know, ethics is tested. You know, how do you maintain principled judgment under pressure?
As you have mentioned that ethics is number one priority in the governance. I'm just going to respond, but also give context in terms of an example. I anchor decisions in values rather than circumstances. So the values that I hold as a board member, but as a leader, one of my key or one of the most important values that I hold, it is the ethical value, being ethical in whatever that I do. So the government frameworks provide the structure, but ethics, it always helps me to provide the direction of what I'm executing. So I will use an environment like rainwater, for an example. When we are dealing with audit findings, we look at things like scenario planning, governance discipline, clear communication. What does that mean? It means, for instance, if rainwater gets its bonuses in December and audits come and they be implemented in November, we have an audit finding that is not clear. And we need to explain to the auditors about the audit finding and then how the audit finding needs to be closed or needs to be executed. So now it goes back to the ethics that I'm talking about. It is important for the board to give a clear communication, one, to EXCO, two, to the employees and the organization that you might not get your bonuses in December. Why? Because there are two things. We either lie and shortcut about the finding, or we thoroughly respond ethically to the finding, and then we give all details needed by the auditors to the finding. And that might take a month or two, which might shift your bonuses from being paid in December to be paid in January. What you've done, people have emotionally impacted and affected by the expectation that has changed in December. But you address all key elements of ethics, governance, but also the openness as a board member to your government. So what it does, pressure will always exist, but authenticity and ethical consistency must always supersede everything. So principles must remain common, must always remain a common denominator. Thank you, Deca.
Thanks so much for highlighting that, transparency is very, very important. It will be your defense, to be transparent, to just say, this is what is happening and this is what we want to do. And then, everyone understand what's happening, than to sort of not be transparent. And also it shows integrity as well. Once you are transparent, shows that you are a person of integrity. Now, we are sort of coming to a close, so some of the questions are sort of to close. From your experience, right? What are the habits that you say, if you're a board member, because of upcoming board members who are getting there, what are the habits that you say, no, if you want to be a high-performing board member, this maybe two or one habit that you say this is very critical for you in terms of your lifestyle or the way you sort of move your career forward?
I think for me, if I can advise the next person, and I think it's also my principle, my motto. It's two things. If I live clean, I reciprocate clean.
Yes.
So what does it mean? If I live clean, I reciprocate clean. It's always helped to have an intellectual independence that is clean. So in boards, you get affected, people persuade you, they want you to follow a certain vision or a certain direction. But if you are clean and you are having an intellectual independence, you will always be the most dominant and the most clean board member and the most successful one in everything and where you go. That will be my my contribution.
Wow, that is awesome. That's it. That's it. Thank you. It's a very, very, very important. It's a very important nugget. Thanks for that. And also, we have got engineers, professional engineers, and other professions who are aspiring to be in boards. What message do you have for these guys who want to go into board positions?
One, I want to change the perception that board members are distant or detached. I want to change the perception that boards are normally composed of individuals who are old, and not technically inclined. So what I want to leave with the youth today and the people listening to this podcast is that I want to make sure that the boards that needs to be built today carry both the technical and the governance focus. People that understand both the execution and the oversight. People who can marry and blend all these things without, people who needs to be very skillful in blending these both, which is the execution and the oversight of things. I want to contribute in making sure that I develop the leaders who are strong in both terms of practice and principles. You can't just be a good engineer, but principles are, I digress. So that's what I want to leave. I want to make sure that even if I die today, I have left leaders who are blended in a skill of principles and technically inclined, who changes the broader perception of how board members should. People who do not mind to take today an income statement, have a look at it, see a fault, but don't blame, but able to take the income statement, become now an executive person in that error can be man-made. Become a person say that cannot be a man-made area. That is fraud. So that's what I want to leave behind as a legacy, to say, let's carry the multiple skilled board members who are both inclined in the technical side of things and the governance side of things. I think that will be my, Mary that I will leave behind.
Thank you so much, Doc. I just want to continue to listen to you. It's quite motivating.
I'm just saying that it's what I wish for, and it's what I'm going to do.
Yeah. Just for listeners' sake, I'm not sure this is a secret, maybe it's, but Dr. Dlamini has got a master career strategy that he has, a blueprint that is planned for his career, and and I am sure you will achieve that, given your motivation. Doc, thank you so much for all the nuggets, the wisdom, and also the motivation. And for me, the way you inspire young people, for me, it's unbelievable. And it was an honor to have you on this interview. And I will not hesitate to recommend you to any board, that any organization that have you in their board, they have got an asset, that can make a difference in the organization. Thank you so much, Doctor.
Thank you. I appreciate. I hope what me and you we've shared today, it will influence future leaders. Salute, Daka, and good luck in everything that you do. Thanks, my brother.
All right. Thank you. Okay, bye.